Hey everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today I have 3 exercises for you that are really going to help you with your figure drawing. You don't need anything but some ink or food coloring. I'm going to walk you through that, and some water, a paintbrush. You can even use a pen if you want. It really doesn't matter, but I'm going to walk you through 3 exercises to help you practice your figure drawing. So grab whatever art supplies you have and join along. I am referencing 2 books in this video. The first one is called Fashion Drawing in Vogue. It is an older book, and you could probably find it online somewhere. It's by William Packer, but the drawings in this book are all old illustrations, and I'm fascinated by the lines and the monochromatic drawings. But if you look at these, I mean, how did they do these faces? Everything looks so simple, yet it is so challenging. Okay, the image that I am going to try to draw first is this one. This is a drawing by Tom Coe, and so he was an illustrator for French Vogue, and his drawings are fabulous. So I'm going to try to draw this one first and focus on just the line work and capturing this look to see if I can do it. So let's give it a try. And I think the key is just some really loose lines and not worrying too much about mistakes. Like, I drew her probably too far down to get her whole figure, but honestly that's okay, because now I'm gonna see if I can just add some shading to it, but I don't have the best brush for that. Really, it's all about playing around. I play around with my art supplies every day. Different art supplies every single day to see what I can create. And today I just thought, well, I think I just want to work with my lines, right? Because these fashion sketches from the past were really just all about simplicity, but simplicity is really hard to do, especially if you see the work from the past. Oh, I like how that one turned out. Trying to keep it as simple as possible and not going too into detail in just one color. That one was, I really feel happy about this one. The next drawing I'm going to do is this one. It's by the same artist. I'm going to try to capture and use this as a reference, but capture the overall gesture and look and feel of this drawing. Again, the simplicity, they make it look so simple. And I love the colors, but we're focused on monochromatic. We're not working in color today, but so gorgeous and beautiful. I can't wait to give this one a try. If you watch my videos, you'll notice I usually use really inexpensive paint and inexpensive paper specifically. And I think it's because, you know, I practice so much with my drawing that I think expensive paper, it makes me not want to be as free to make mistakes. And that's why I will oftentimes buy inexpensive art supplies. That's why food coloring is great. If you don't want to buy expensive art supplies, like food coloring does the job, really. I actually really love red food coloring simply because it's so vibrant, and maybe we'll do one in red, but I want to keep it monochromatic because trying to focus on like shading and capturing things with the simple lines, which I'm kind of going into too much detail here, but that's okay. Try to loosen it up a bit. I love drawings from the past. Okay, we've got some, her dress comes way down like this. And you're not going to beat yourself up over not getting it right. Now, I feel like her head is probably, I'll make her head a little bit bigger. And maybe I'll make her hair like that. And I think when you're just using one color, you're forced to sort of play around with the shading, the shadows, and seeing what you can do with just line work. And I'm using two different size brushes. Like if I'm just actually, there's just water on this one. And with the ink, you can just sort of move it around a little bit. There. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Not too bad. Let's go on to the next one. When you look at the work of these illustrators from the past, it's really simple, loose lines. I love the way it looks. I love how they do the profiles. I mean, it's so much harder than it looks. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one with food coloring so you can see how that works, how food coloring is so easy to use as a paint medium, especially if you're just practicing your artwork. So if you're practicing lines and that kind of thing. So hopefully I've cleaned my brush off enough. And I'm just using a really, like I'm holding it really loosely. Oops. Don't be afraid to play around. Like, don't give up because the proportions aren't quite right. Now, I know that I don't want to do too many details, but I'm just sort of making flowers here to make the dress a little bit bigger. And then I'll probably try to draw her arms in here. This one's going to be down. And this one's going to be... And sometimes I have to make the head a little bit bigger to match the body. So you can see how you can use food coloring as well if you don't have ink. It works just as perfectly as the ink does. And maybe they don't have black food coloring, I don't know, but the vibrancy of the color of food coloring is pretty fantastic. So I actually like using ink, and then a lot of times I'll add some red food coloring to my artwork. Even though this is supposed to be sort of monochromatic, you can kind of see if you want to add, if I wanted to add some color to her, how pretty the red food coloring looks. I'll leave a link in the description to using food coloring as paint. I have a video on that. Before we move on to the next activity, I did want to mention that on my website I have some downloadable ebooks and downloadable artwork that you can look at, and if you want to support my channel, you can download some of these for a small fee. It just helps me create these videos, and as you can see, I love color, and so today is a tough one in trying to be monochromatic, but the next activity we're going to do is going to be more of shape. So we are going to be focused on basic shapes to draw figures. So let's get started. When it comes to drawing figures, just drawing basic lines is very helpful for the shape. So I'm just moving my camera a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So I don't have any reference photo here. I'm just grabbing some ink And you can do things like triangles like this. Like just draw some triangles both ways, okay? Triangle that way, triangle that way. You could draw like a U, an upside down U, triangle, like that. Those are little figures. These are little figures. You can draw a little face. Look at that messy circle. That messy circle ends up being hair, okay? And then you could play with it. You know, this is someone walking, right? Let's see if I could sort of move this up so you could see it a bit more. Hold on. Let's see. Try to move that down a little bit so you can get a really good look at it. But it's almost abstract, and it's just line work, playing, and seeing what you can create. I like the way that one turned out. I might add, like, there we go. I want it to be messy because I don't want to think too much. I find when I think too much, that's where I get myself into trouble. Now that looks kind of cool, but you can also add some water to the bottom. Like if I get a little bit of water and a little bit of the black ink, you can create like a shadow, like they're walking on the street, right? And that's pretty basic. You can even draw, and I don't know if I'm going to ruin it now, but you can even draw like buildings, right? I'm trying to draw a building like as if they were walking in the city. Okay, let's pretend that's a building. I want it to be like a light gray, so I could, maybe they're walking down, you know, a street. I want it to be light, really light. But maybe they're walking down a street, right? And maybe there's just creating some shadow there. It's not meant to be perfect. I'm going to extend this so you guys can see the building. Hold on 1 second, I'm not the best at the video recording here. Okay, this is the building. And then the other thing you could do once you get your building in there, which is kind of cool. I'm getting a little more ink. I'm just grabbing some, and you can just draw like little squares in there. And again, this is almost, remember, it's almost abstract. We're not trying to draw real life. You're playing with your lines. You're playing with your line work. You're not trying to draw something perfect. This is abstract. And I'm really, really quick with this. But I like how this turned out, right? Again, I'm just trying to draw more of a shadow there. And you could, you know, I don't want to add color because when I get bogged down with color, I actually start to go overboard. And that's one of the things I'm working on, is not going overboard. But this is really kind of cool, and you can really play around with a lot more, you know, draw a scene of people walking. But again, it's abstract, but you're practicing, just getting used to the shapes of figures. And the more you do this kind of thing, the easier it gets to do this kind of thing, because you're just practicing the overall basic shapes. Especially the proportions of the human body can be a challenge. It's one of the biggest challenges, like, is the head big enough for the body, that kind of thing. So this activity is excellent. I highly suggest practicing it, and it's super fun. So we're going to move on to the final activity. For the final activity, we're going to be referencing, or I am, this is the book that inspires me for proper proportions, is this book called Fashion Illustration by Anna Kipper. Her book is beautiful. You could see she walks you through everything from proper proportions to drawing, you know, faces and figures in much more detail. This book, I mean, look at it. Look at that beautiful work. So gorgeous. I'm going to be doing something loosely based on this, but obviously her book goes into much more, you know, so much more detail with fashion drawing. And I don't know if this, you could probably, again, find this online somewhere, or at a thrift shop or vintage store, or maybe even on an online store. I'm not sure where you find these books. I find it really hard to find good examples of fashion illustration from the past and just anything as magical as this. So if you have any books that you love, leave a comment below, because I'm looking for stuff that's as beautiful as this to inspire me. So we're going to get started on the next activity, which is sort of proper measurement to draw figures. The final activity when it comes to drawing figures is probably one of the most popular ones that you would add measuring to this, but I don't measure out my figures. Like, fashion figures are supposed to be 10 heads high, so you break the body into 10 heads high, but I like to just use a line. So I'm just getting my brush ready. You can actually just use a line, and I'm just going to do that right here. Just use a line. And what people usually do is break it up into 10 different sections. I don't really care to do that. I usually just put the head at the top, and then you can break down where the neck and the shoulders is, and you're just marking where the hips are, where the shoulders are. And I always draw the legs too short. The thing about it is the legs are much, much longer than you think. I like to break this down once I've done this into sort of the torso. So I'll draw like a little U here, and I'll draw like a rectangle here, because that's the torso, that's the hips, and then you can draw the legs from there. And again, I am not into perfect proportions, but you can draw the legs like that and extend the hips a bit. There, I'll draw pants on her, shorts on her. And just play around with the size of the head. You know, her neck's gonna come down. And then you kind of have a figure there, right? And you can add some hair. But again, you're just playing with your line work. And this is not about perfection. This is about trying to draw figures. Before you can draw any figure, you kind of have to practice all these exercises to try to practice your proportions and your figures, with the head being the right shape and then getting the rest of the body in there, especially the hips and the torso, and sort of keeping things proportionate. I definitely like the activity where you draw one line, right, and then a head. And you can play around with what the body is doing, right? You can do like a line down here, like an angled line, right? If one shoulder, and then like the hips up like that. And then you know her hip is sort of going like this. Gonna put in her neck. Her hand is down there. And I'm just really, the rectangle for her body, I am really playing with this. Like, I don't have her legs. We're gonna go right off the page because, and you have to be willing to make mistakes. This looks messy, but it's okay. And then you can even draw like a dress on her. I'll add some water there. You know? And her head again. I always get the head a little too small, so I could play around with that. And you're just playing around with the proportions. I kind of like her now. And you don't give up. Like, for me, like, I just keep going till I could figure this out. And sometimes, like, adding jewelry, you can even, I'm not gonna, oh, here I am. I keep going, but I'm not gonna do her face, because I feel like that will ruin it. This is just simple, loose figures. You're playing around. It's abstract line work, monochromatic, and just playing with sort of gestural drawings of figures. And so those are the 3 activities. Just look at some pictures that you like. Go on Pinterest. You can look up, I personally love the old style artwork. I really just feel that the old style artwork has a lot more, it's more unique, and it looks so simple, but it is very challenging to do. And so when you manage to do something, it's just such a great feeling. I really encourage everyone who's interested in drawing figures to give these 3 activities a try. This one is actually probably one of my favorites. Like, I think anyone can do this and come out with something that they really like. So I'd love to hear from you if you gave this a try. Leave a comment below. I hope you all have a wonderful day and happy sketching.